Welcome to the July 2025 tornado forecast, where we break down the latest risk zones and highlight where severe weather may strike this month. I'm Kyle Coxon with Critical Synoptic Solutions, and in this outlook, we'll reveal the regions with the highest tornado potential based on historical trends, current climate signals, and model guidance. Tornado season doesn't just shut off in July. While the spring peak fades, new patterns emerge, and this month still has plenty of severe potential. Let's dive in and explore what's brewing for July 2025. Let's start by taking a look at the historical backdrop. July might not be as infamous as May or June for tornadoes, but that doesn't mean it's quiet. In fact, the upper Midwest and Central Plains consistently light up the maps this time of year. Minnesota averages the most July tornadoes with about 10 per year, followed closely by North Dakota with 9 and Illinois with 7. That's not random, it's tied to favorable ingredients like lingering instability, rich Gulf moisture, and just enough jet stream support to spark rotating storms. Knowing where tornadoes usually occur gives us a strong baseline when building our monthly outlook, and in July, these hotspots are still very much in play. When it comes to tornado forecasting, climate patterns play a major role in shaping the overall environment. And July 2006 gives us a strong analog for what we could expect this year. That year featured a neutral ENSO following a weak La Niña spring, just like 2025. We also had a slightly positive NAO and PNA and a positive AO, all signals that enhance jet stream support and increase storm potential across the Midwest and Northeast. But one of the biggest players, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, or MJO. It was active in phases 1 through 5 during early July, which promotes tropical moisture transport and instability. Two ingredients you definitely want to watch when forecasting summer severe weather. Now look at the right. The CFS version 2 model forecast for 2025 shows sea surface temperatures remaining neutral. That aligns with 2006, and it sets the stage for a similar type of tornado activity. So when you see these signals match up with an active year, it's not just a coincidence, it's a clue. Now let's break down the key oscillations that shape tornado activity in July. This is where the atmosphere gets real interesting. On the left, we got MJO composites. Each row is a different phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation. Phases 1 through 5 show enhanced precipitation and rising temperatures across the central United States. These are prime conditions for instability, which fuels severe weather. Now on the right, we're tracking 3 key indices. NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation, is forecast to hover slightly positive. This tends to reinforce ridging across the southeast and promotes active storm tracks farther north. AO, Arctic Oscillation, is also running positive, which helps keep cold air bottled up in the Arctic, favoring more zonal flow and helping set up shear-friendly jet patterns across the northern United States. PNA, Pacific North American pattern, is trending near neutral to slightly positive. That supports ridging in the west and a downstream trough into the Midwest, basically the setup we want for severe storm development. Put all this together and you've got a synchronized signal, a background pattern that's nudging the atmosphere toward instability, jet support, and storm organization throughout July. Let's talk temperature and rainfall, two of the biggest players in the severe weather game. First off, look at the temperature maps. Above normal heat is dominating most of the country, especially across the Intermountain West. This kind of heat supports a stronger dry line in the plains and fuels instability when moisture is present. Now check out the precipitation outlooks. The monthly forecast shows a dry signal in the northern Rockies, which reinforces that dry line boundary setting up farther east, prime real estate for storm formation. But here's the twist. The 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook flips wetter, especially across the southwest and into the central United States. That's thanks to the monsoon season ramping up, pushing more Gulf and subtropical moisture northward. Combine that moisture with the heat and boom, we've got the recipe for storms. Bottom line, early July looks primed for action with warm air, moisture return, and sharp boundaries setting the stage for organized severe weather. Alright, let's talk about the engine behind it all. The jet stream and storm track. This is where things start to get really interesting. A shortwave trough is expected to swing into the interior northeast and mid-Atlantic. That means enhanced lift and upper level support across an environment already primed with moisture and instability. Now take a look at that Cape probability map on the right. There's a 50% or greater chance of Cape exceeding 1,000 joules per kilogram over eastern New York, Pennsylvania, and parts of New Jersey. When you get instability overlapping with jet-driven lift like this, storms can quickly go from scattered to organized. Even northern New York and Vermont, where instability is a bit weaker, still have stronger wind shear to help support organized convection. And that's key for getting anything beyond popcorn storms. The primary threats early in the month: damaging winds and heavy rain. Tornado potential looks low at first, but don't sleep on it. If that Rosby wave pushes east and reshapes the jet across the upper Midwest, that could open the door to more spin-ups later on. As we look toward early July, let's break down how instability, wind shear, and lift come together, or in this case, sort of come together. Overall, tornado potential looks pretty limited to kick off the month. Instead, the main threats shift towards damaging winds and heavy rainfall, especially in the northeast. That's where moderate Cape overlaps with broad-scale lift from approaching shortwave trough, helping storms develop but not necessarily rotate. Now, if we zoom in on areas like northern New York and Vermont, we do see elevated wind shear. That's good news for storm organization, but it's not the whole picture. The real wildcard: how shear vectors line up with instability and forcing. If that alignment clicks, we could get a few well-structured storms. But if it doesn't, expect scattered clusters that mostly dump rain and produce gusty winds. So early July isn't a tornado hotspot, but we've got the pieces in play for organized convection and possibly a few surprises if those ingredients mesh just right. Now let's take a look at where tornadoes tend to show up most often in July. And spoiler alert, it's not the traditional tornado alley. Over the past 70 plus years, North Dakota takes the crown with 470 recorded July tornadoes, followed closely by Minnesota, Colorado, Nebraska, and South Dakota. These states see frequent storm activity thanks to an ideal mix of Gulf moisture surging northward and favorable jet stream placement. And it's not just about quantity, the quality of storms matter too. The map on the right shows tracks of significant EF3 to EF5 tornadoes since 1950, and most of them cluster across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. That's where we've historically seen the most intense and destructive tornadoes during July. So while the South and Central Plains steal the spotlight in spring, July belongs to the North. When it comes to forecasting tornado risk, analog years can be gold, and 2006 is shining bright for July 2025. Why 2006? Well, the jet stream placement, MJO phases 1 through 5, and a neutral ENSO all match up closely with what we were seeing this year. That year saw a broad corridor of severe weather stretching from the Central Plains to the upper Midwest and to the Great Lakes and even the interior Northeast. And check out that map on the right. Tornado tracks slipped up the northern half of the United States, especially through Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan, extending all the way into Pennsylvania and New York. The takeaway: when we get this kind of setup, Gulf moisture, shortwave troughs, and mid-level flow all aligning, we typically see clustered, organized tornado events, especially across the northern United States. So July 2025 could end up looking a lot like 2006, and that's something we can't ignore. Another key analog for July 2025 is July 2011, and it brings even more evidence of what could be in store. Why 2011? Just like 2006, we see a neutral ENSO, a positive NAO and AO, and a slightly positive PNA. All ingredients for an active regional severe weather pattern. But what makes 2011 different is that MJO phases 1 through 4 dominated, helping to boost moisture return and instability early in the month. The result? Tornado activity stretched across the Central Plains, Upper Midwest, and Great Lakes, with some isolated severe storms making it all the way into the northeast. And once again, shortwave troughs and jet stream support played major roles. The takeaway is clear: when the MJO is active in the right phases and paired with favorable upper-level patterns, we can expect scattered but organized severe weather, especially in regions where shear and mesoscale lift overlap. If July 2025 follows the 2011 playbook, we're looking at multiple zones of rotating storms, not just one hotspot. Let's pull it all together. This is the official July tornado risk forecast. And as always, we blend past analogs, current data, and a dose of severe weather intuition. The center of it all, the upper Midwest, shown here in pink. This region has the highest tornado potential thanks to overlapping ingredients: Gulf moisture, dryline activity, and a storm supporting jet stream. Here, isolated supercells and locally organized storm clusters could form, especially later in the month. Next up is the moderate risk zone, shown in red. This stretches across the western upper Midwest and to the Central Plains. Why moderate? This transition zone is historically active in July and favors multiple rounds of storms, including a few strong tornadoes when the right mix of instability and shear shows up. Then we've got the enhanced risk area in orange, covering parts of the Central Plains, the Midwest, and the High Plains. Even though this isn't the bullseye zone, the potential is still significant. These areas often sit under a returning moisture plum near dryline boundaries with just enough jet stream support to spawn clusters of rotating storms. All in all, this forecast favors a classic July pattern, with the upper Midwest stealing the spotlight, but plenty of storm chances spread across the central United States. To wrap it all up, July 2025 isn't peak tornado season, but it still poses a threat. Atmospheric drivers like neutral ENSO, a positive AO, and MJO phases 1 through 6 support scattered but organized severe weather. Bottom line, July tornadoes may be fewer than in spring, but they are still dangerous, especially in transition zones and areas with rich moisture, instability, and jet stream support. Thanks for watching Critical Synoptic Solutions. Stay safe, stay alert, and I'll catch you in the next forecast.